This is Kyle Swicegood. Welcome to another edition of the Ready to Bid podcast, where we talk about real estate and personal property auctions and interesting topics. Today is going to be a personal conversation. In 1992, I was a 25-year-old kid. My wife and I had our first child, and she was a beautiful, beautiful baby. And for some reason, I had in my heart that I wanted to discover an interesting topic that my wife and I talked about on our first date. And that's the fact that she was adopted. I knew what my parents looked like, but I had no idea what my wife's birth parents looked like. So I set off on a 2-year journey to find my wife's birth mother. That's a long story in and of itself. But today, what I want to share with you is my wife and her sister to have a conversation about finding each other in 1994. I hope you enjoy.
Hey, I'm Elizabeth Swicegood, and I have with me today my sister, my youngest sister. Her name is Erin Solano. She comes to us all the way from Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. And we have been so blessed to welcome her entire family this summer to our home, and hope we will have many more visits in the future. But today, Kyle had asked us to tell a little bit about our story, and so we're going to attempt to do that. And for me, it will be hard because it was many years ago. And basically, I can remember the day because it was right around the time that my daughter Ashton was born. You know, Erin, you're a mom, and especially with your first baby, you hold that baby in your arms and you just gaze in their face and you can't stop. You're totally mesmerized by every feature. And I can remember doing that with Ashton. And she was a preemie baby, so she was only 4 pounds and 3 ounces. There wasn't a lot to gaze at. But anyway, and I kept looking at her and thinking, you know, who does she look like? Who does she resemble? And as an adopted child, that's something you don't know. You don't know that. And so I think that was a big impetus for us to begin a search. And thanks to Kyle. So he worked for 2 hard years to find your family, and he was successful. God led the way. Many times we thought we had reached a roadblock, but God said not yet. But he kept on opening doors in his timing, and so maybe today we can share a little bit about that. The first phone call. So Kyle asked us to start there because the story is very long if you go all the way back. And so, I was 27 when we received the unredacted file from Hope Cottage Adoption Agency. They handled the adoption for my parents. And we had waited about 2 years to get that file. And it came the weekend we had gone to Myrtle Beach, and I said, we were walking along the beach, you know, hand in hand, so romantic. And I said, do you think that the file will be in the mailbox when we get home? And he said, it's possible. I mean, it's about time. And it was my birthday, and I was 27. So I can remember that because it was January the 27th, and I was turning 27. So that's your golden birthday. And I said, oh, that would be the best present ever, you know, for this special birthday. And we get home, and we didn't even go in the house. We went straight to the mailbox. And there it was. It was a very large manila envelope. And we knew that right away that was it. So we dove into that like there was no tomorrow. And we were fortunate because we were able to know what we were looking for, because we had a copy of the same exact file, but everything was, of course, redacted. So we knew exactly where to go in the file to find what we were looking for, and that was a very special letter written by Beverly, your mother, my mother. Mm-hmm. And she was probably at the time maybe 17 when she wrote this letter. And basically it said that, you know, I was a teenage mom and I had a child, and you assisted me in placing that child for adoption. And I was curious if she was adopted. And if she was adopted, that's wonderful. Can you tell me a little bit about the family? I know you can't give me details, but she was like, can you just give me some basic information about the family that adopted her? And she said, if she wasn't adopted, or if she was never placed. If she had, some physical problem and, no one wanted to adopt her, whatever it was, she said, well, I'll come pick her up. I'll take her back. And, that was just so touching to us. And so that letter had her address. And we thought it would be Texas because that's where all my family's from. That's where Beverly's from too. So we thought it would be Texas, but, there it was, Alberta, Canada. And we said, we did not see this coming. Canada, that's a long way. And from Texas anyway, even from North Carolina. So I'm talking on and on. I don't want to take up the whole time, but I have to sort of set it up so that we can get your story in here. So bear with me a minute. Kyle said, I can find her. He said, I've done this for 2 years, and I just know that I can find her. I thought to myself, here we go. It's going to be another 2 years. It's another country. Next thing you know, he's in the house. I'm over there, dealing with a new, basically a 6-month-old baby at that point with Ashton. So I was busy. And he gets on information. Back then, for you young people, there was a thing called a phone book and information, a directory. He called an operator, a live person, answered the phone and said, how can I help you? And he said, I would like to speak to Beverly McGonigal. I have her address here. I don't have, the right telephone number, but I have her address. Can you look up what her number is? And she said, I'm sorry, I don't have a listing for, this Beverly. I don't have that listing. He said, you could I could hear, I was in the next room, probably changing a diaper. And I could hear the frustration in his voice. He's like, not again. He said, well, just pick one. And she said, well, sir, it's not that easy. She's like, there's probably 700-ish, listings for this last name. Edmonton is the capital, right?
Alberta, yes.
Yeah, big city. And small little Moxville country folks, we can't hardly understand that, but it's a big city, a lot of listings. And she said, well, okay, I'll just pick one. So Kyle's like, okay, I'm ready. And he takes down the telephone number and hangs up. And that operator, I can't imagine, she probably ran off and said, this guy's nuts. But so he calls, and the number she gave him at random. And a sweet lady answered the phone, and he had it on speakerphone because I can remember hearing a sort of an Irish accent a little bit, a tinge of Irish. And I thought, this is wrong. This is all wrong. This what? And he said, Beverly McGonigal, and she said, yeah, I know her, but this is not her home. You have the wrong number. He said, well, can you please help me? I don't have my, contact book updated, and I've got her address, but I don't have the right number. And she's like, well, what's the address? And he gave it, and she's, oh no, they don't live there anymore. They moved several years ago. He's like, oh, okay. Can you tell me so I can update? And he's over here writing away like furiously. And this poor woman had no idea. And he was just pretty much, rolling right on. But anyway, so she gave him the telephone number. She said, her husband's name's Kevin. And Kyle's like, that's right. I'm going to write that down, He had no idea. So he hangs up. And next thing you know, he's like, Elizabeth, I might be onto something, and you might want to come in here. I'm like, how, what? It can't be. No. He said, no, I really have this sense that this is the right telephone number after all this time. I said, how could that possibly be? I've been listening. This lady, what? And he's like, no, just come in here. I said, I can't. I said, don't you? No. I said, in case it's the right person, I don't want to be the one on the telephone. I'm not prepared. It's just too sudden. I can't do it. And if you know my personality, like, that's Elizabeth. So anyway, he said, well, just let me handle it. And I said, you do that. So he starts dialing it up, And little by little, I went from Ashton's bedroom, which was literally across the hall from our bedroom. And I can't remember, I had put her down, for the night. So I was free. And I remember taking like baby steps into our bedroom, and I could hear him talking to someone. I'm like, this sounds like he might be onto something, but I'm not sure. And I kept getting closer and closer and closer. And at that point, I'm like, this is it. I think this is it. And but at that time, he was talking to Kevin, which is Beverly's husband. And he basically said, is Beverly there? And Kevin kind of peppered him with some questions. and he dodged them all pretty good, and he got through he got through the gate, and Kevin felt comfortable enough to say, "Well, hold on, I'll go get Beverly." And I think God was really involved in that because Kyle was completely off the cuff there. And had he said something wrong, it could have been, look, you're crazy and hang up, whatever. But God, I think, gave him the right words to say. And Kevin felt a sense of peace about it. But he said, hold on, I'll go get her. So he goes to get Beverly. And this is where, Erin, you were in the room.
I was in the
So
room.
you tell that.
All right. So at the time, I think I was about 12 years old, and we were sitting in the living room with our other sister, Jennifer. We were working on her wedding dress. She was making it by hand, and we were doing the beading for the appliques. And the phone rang, and Dad went up and got the phone, and he answered, and his voice kind of got a little deep, and said, "Well, yeah, I'll put you on hold. I'm going to go take the phone in a different room." And so right away, that piqued my interest because Dad never went to a different room to answer the phone. And he goes upstairs, slinks away on the phone for a little bit. And we're just, working away, beating on the wedding dress. And then probably 5 or 10 minutes after the phone had rang, he came down the hallway and he said, "Beverly, I'd like you to come to the phone. There's an important phone call and you need to take it." And just the tone of his voice, it was like, whoa, what kind of phone call is this? Uh, this is very interesting. Okay. And so Mom goes upstairs, and I I don't think she came down for the rest of the evening, and maybe Dad came down, but there was definitely an emotional shift that happened in the house that night. And I didn't know anything about
Because you were
being,
held.
I was 12. So I didn't know that I had a half sister at all. Like, I didn't know the story. Mom had told my sister, well, our sister and our two other brothers, so they were aware that that they had a half sister, but I didn't know. And so I think Mom and Dad were, processing this amazing phone call that happened, and were trying to find the right time to tell me in the right way. And it was a whole week of this. "We love you, Erin." Lots of hugs, and their faces were beaming. Like, just they were so filled with joy. And as a 12-year-old, you're just kind of like, what is going on? This is not normal, like it's the, middle of the school year, that kind of thing. But then it dawned on me, and I thought, wait a minute. Dad said if we ever won the lottery that he would never tell us until the end of the school year so that we would finish it out, we'd finish our studies, and then we would start this new life with all this money from the lottery. So I was convinced.
Sorry, it's just me.
I was convinced we won the lottery. And so later that week, I think it was a Friday evening, Jennifer and my brothers were out of the house, and it was very quiet. So Mom and Dad, I think it was in our living room, came to say, "Erin, we have something really important to tell you, and you're the first person to hear this very special news." And so I'm thinking, how much did we win?
Write me a check.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, this is amazing. So yeah, they sat me down and told me that Mom had a baby when she was 16, and when she lived in Texas, and she had to give her up for adoption. And that broke my heart. I couldn't imagine having to give your baby away. And even at 12, I felt so deeply connected and just so sorrowful over that. But then they said, but uh, they found us. Your sister found us. And I was like, what? She found us? That's amazing. And they said, and you're the first person that we told. And so you have this special news, and we wanted to tell you first. And so I felt like, oh, just so honored and so excited to meet you. And then later that weekend, everybody found out. And it was just this joy in the house. And you could just see the relief, uh, it was like radiance. Like, they were just radiating love and joy. And I don't recall our first phone call, but I remember what you would send us in the mail, and that was so exciting in and of itself. We would get videos that you would record with Kyle and the kids and you, and but I do remember the first again, manila envelopes. We got this envelope in the mail, and it was so wonderful that you and your mom had decided to share photos when you were a baby and through your childhood. And I remember mom getting it, and it was just like, it was so precious, and she held it close to her heart. And she went to her room. She needed the time to look through them all. And I just remember when she was ready to share with everyone, it was amazing just to see your childhood. And
It was a happy
it
childhood,
was a
yeah.
happy childhood. And you look just like mom.
Oh yeah, it's
Sorry.
when we got the envelope from you all first. I think y'all sent one first. I'm pretty sure. I think Kyle asked, "Would you please, send us some family photos?" I'm pretty sure that's how it went. But I was the same way. Oh, I grabbed that up and handed Kyle the baby. You watch her. I'm going over here to look at all these, and I devoured them, and I didn't miss any detail. And I looked at them so close over and over again.
Yeah.
But one of the first ones I saw was a young picture of Beverly.
Mhm.
And I thought, oh my goodness, that's my face.
Yeah.
And then I looked at Jennifer. That Jennifer would be the oldest sibling in Erin's family group, and she would be the I guess the third in Beverly's. And so and that's kind of another topic. It's like birth order kind of shifted for me because I was always the middle child. I had an older sister. I had two younger brothers in the family. I was raised in Texas, and then when I became a part of the McGonagalls, then I became the oldest child. So, but anyway, and I looked at Jennifer and I thought we could be twins.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And as we have aged, and my hair has gotten gray or blonde, then we look, I think, a lot more alike too. But yeah, those pictures were special and videos. But I remember getting your letter from a sweet little 12-year-old girl, and you, your your handwriting was beautiful, but you could tell you were so young.
Yeah.
And here I was, like I was 27, and I thought she is my sister, and it's just so sweet. She's writing this letter, and it's obvious you took the time to write it. Very lengthy, a lot of details. You must have really worked on that, and you talked about how you thought we'd won the lottery, but you said finding you was even better. And I was at that point I was a puddle,
Yeah.
and Kyle too. But yeah, so those were special first days, and when I first found out I was adopted, my mom and dad, of course, they were the best parents ever anyone could hope for, and had an idyllic childhood in Texas. And they told me that if I ever wanted to search, they would support me 100%. But we didn't share with them that we were searching because we thought, if it never amounts to anything, why bother to tell them anything? So, but they were very receptive to all of the McGonigal family, and invited them into their home many times, and embraced them. And there was never a jealousy factor. There was never any secrecy. It was all very, it was a Christian environment. It was led by the Lord, and that makes all the difference in the world. And it was a beautiful thing to behold.
Mhm.
And a lot of joy. I like the word that you picked out there, joy. There was a lot of joy on both sides of the family. And so, hard to believe that, Ashton is now 33, basically almost. And she was just an infant at that time. And our first trip to meet you all for the first time was in the summer. Lewis had already been born at that point, and he took his very first steps in your front yard. I remember Jennifer was kind of his spotter. She was out there doing a really good job. And so what a special time that was. And I remember it was a magical trip. We went to Banff and beheld the beauty of the Canadian Rockies, which if you've never gone there, you need to go. It's phenomenal.
It's beautiful.
It is
Yeah,
beautiful.
breathtaking.
It is you feel like you're in a postcard the entire time you're there, and you're like, is this even real? So that was a magical trip, and we got to meet everyone. I found, enjoyed meeting, Jennifer, obviously, and Greg at the time. Of course, they were fixing to get married. Later, I was asked to be in the wedding, which was an honor. I met Sean and Jeffrey, and so those would be my two brothers. So, and that was so amazing. And they were in high school, I believe, right? Or college. Probably college.
High school.
High school was a high school at the time? Okay.
Junior high, high school.
Was it? Yeah. So, and I remember getting on the airplane to say goodbye after that first visit. The whole family came, and that was back in the days when you could actually, pretty much go in, not to the airplane, but pretty close to say your goodbyes.
Mhm.
That was before, 9/11, of course. And so there was the whole entire family. And I don't think I've ever cried more tears. It was such a relief. It was just a joy. It was everything all rolled into one. It was sadness to say goodbye, primarily. And we got on that airplane with a little basically a year old baby and a toddler. And Kyle and I can remember the first couple of hours of that flight. People must have thought we'd lost a family member because we weren't just crying a little tears and we were weeping. We were weeping on that flight.
We were weeping on the other side too.
And because we were really thankful for what God had done.
Yeah, absolutely. Honestly, been such a blessing. It really has.
So, you're getting ready to leave tomorrow, so I know there'll be more tears shed, but there always will be a trip in the future, and we have that to look forward to. But I will say that Erin and Adrian, her husband, Audrey, their oldest daughter, and Austin, their son, have been here this summer, and they celebrated their 21st wedding anniversary just yesterday. And we're going to have a big meal tonight in celebration of it for them. But so, Erin, I have to tell you that when you invited me to be in your wedding, it was really special, and you were a beautiful bride. And I remember that day. I may be bad about the dates, but the day I'll never forget. It was beautiful. And the fact that I've been able to be in those weddings, yours and Jennifer, are memories that I'll always cherish. And I just want to say I love you.
Oh, I love you too.
Thanks for coming to see us.
Oh, it's been such a pleasure always to see you as like a little treasure in our life. And you always have a place in our life and our heart forever. Yeah. It's just been such a blessing in our life to have you. And I've always, not that I don't look up to my other siblings, but I look up to you too. And what a blessing for me to have such amazing examples in my life of faith and love and commitment and, permanence and devotion to each other. And I'm so blessed, really, really. It's been a beautiful journey. Can't wait for more visits.
She has a beautiful family. You do. Family's a good thing.
It sure is.
I hope you've enjoyed a very small segment of the story of how we found each other. We, over the years, have done videos and presentations on it because it's quite a long saga. And maybe someday we'll actually put it into a book. But anyway, maybe we'll have another podcast with Jennifer or Jeffrey or Sean and get their perspectives. But what a great blessing it's been to meet this family, this special family.